Brittany Bud Creations. To go get your merchandise, www.brittanybudscns.com. Hey y'all, this is your girl Brittany from Brittany Bud Creations. So I wanted to expand on the topic of narcissism, and I want to describe the macrocosm of the microcosm behind this influence of narcissism, the spirit behind narcissism. And it really gets deep, but the mysticism behind it, I want to shatter all that, all the mysticism behind all of this whole thing. I want to destroy the whole mysticism behind what they call witchcraft. Let's just say that it's just manipulation. It's just whoever is holding the puppet strings of the perspective, control of the information, creating illusions, lies. That's the basics. So when we talk about narcissism, let's just say this, and I've done research. Like I have research. Let's just say that. It's just simply programming. And this is programming that really started off with our governments very early, very, very, very early. And we're just kind of in the middle of the haze, not knowing what's going on. But I'm going to go ahead and break it down as best as I can without confusing anyone. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with this. My information is coming from Cheryl Rainfield. This paper was done in 1994, 2000. And it talks about programming. What is programming? Programming involves a message or series of messages, often accompanied by sensory, emotional or body memories that repeat or resonate inside a survivor's mind at a certain cue or trigger, delivered by personalities who were trained through torture to do that. Programming is a deliberate tool used by cults to control their victims. It is trained into victims through the use of mind control and torture at a very young age. The degree to which a victim incorporates programming into her personality, his or her personality system, is often a large part of his or her chance at survival. Often the torture does not stop until the cult is assured that the victim not only knows the message, but has taken it into a deep core level. The survivor often has to create specific personalities to withstand the torturous events and message, and has to accept particular names and roles for personalities that the cults set for them. When a program is set off and personalities begin to do the job that they were trained to do through torture, the survivor re-experiences much of the same trauma and terror that he or she did while being tortured, along with programming messages. He or she may not consciously hear or register the programming messages or may assume that they are his or her thoughts. Okay, so there's that. So basically, in a nutshell, that is basically the main tactic of a narcissistic individual. This is on the lower level, a more interpersonal, one-on-one level. When you encounter individuals, your own self, and then you have the grander scale, which basically escalates from, it goes from an individual narcissistic encounter to family units. Then it goes up to, it will go up to, I guess, depending on where you come from. If you live in the hood, you're coming from a neighborhood or so forth, it'd be on the levels of, thugging, drugging, whatever the local criminals would be. And basically they would, these same tactics would be applied, where they basically act as the handler, searching for low-hanging fruit, which are usually innocent or I guess the more vulnerable individuals in in that community, and vulnerable, I would say, say for instance, you come from a broken home. It'd be any type of unit where there's some high degree of trauma, alcoholism, and typically it would be coming from that type of, dynamic. So let me back up and break down kind of where a lot of this really, how this narcissism stuff really originated and how it's really broken down. So if we go back all the way to the top, to the very beginning of, from my understanding of how, at least in the States, in the United States of America, the thing that brings back, that really brings a lot of movement, that, the biggest highlighter of, of some of this activity, traceable activity, is when you take it back to Germany and the whole Hitler phenomenon, the Holocaust, so forth and so on. And y'all all know, and most people, y'all are very smart, know the history of, propaganda and how that all began, and starts with the charismatic leader that basically is implanting thoughts into people's heads. And again, it goes back to programming. Okay? Programming. That's how it starts. So anybody that has done that research, analyzed the, that whole phenomenon, those who are very well versed in that, y'all know. Okay, now let's fast forward. So Hitler and that whole regime is supposed to be supposedly taken down. It's the whole scare about communism, yada, 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 whatever. Okay. And supposedly the German scientists, basically German social scientists, is basically social engineering. Those scientists are playing around with social engineering. Ultimately, what and how can you control a whole population of people? What is the best way to invasively, kind of slowly, behind the scenes, go through the back door route of, controlling people without their full knowledge of what's going on? And so, hence we move on to what we call social engineering. So the German scientist, Project Paperclip. Okay, y'all look that up. Social engineering. Pavlov, what's that? Pavlov conditioning. That's all a part of that. When they were talking, I guess in the 60s, and they was experimenting with the psychedelic drugs, things that how can you get somebody in a more suggestive mindset? How do you get them to become less inhibited? How do you get them to let down their guards? That's all a part of that. When they talking about MK Ultra, simply MK Ultra is the process of using emotional abuse, psychological abuse on whatever the target, that victim is. Break them down. Basically, it's very simple. If you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to hurt you, basically. I'm going to destroy innocence of yourself so that you don't have control of your body. And you're going to do what I tell you to do, unless you want to have this happen again. And I'm going to keep doing it. And just look at it like this. Women who have been in domestic violence situations. What is the anatomy of the abuser? You are their object. You are just their tool. The minute you stop, you're not acting the way that they want you to act. You're malfunctioning as their tool. Then they're going to go ahead and try to subjugate you, make you submit by any means possible. It start off psychological, emotional, and physical to subjugate, to get you to adopt and move the way that they want you to move. That's what it is in a nutshell. Simple coercion, and you're basically, by any means purpose, emotionally, mentally, psychological, but mentally is psychological, whatever, by any form of abuse possible to get you to go ahead and go along with the program. The minute you go along with the program and you give over your power and do what it is that they want you to do, then they got you. Then you have those who begin to. It starts off like that. Let me go ahead and go back. Let's pull it back a little bit. So then we move on to. Remember what was it, the 60s, 50s, 60s, whenever the what's that guy who he had a cult, and he convinced them to drink Kool-Aid, it's basically poison Kool-Aid, convinced them to kill themselves. I forgot who the name, Jim Jones, something like that. I think that's what it is. Really, those are government instituted programs, in all other words. Our government started the cults. Basically, it was basically like having a demo. Let's do a demo run on the population to see how this works. Let's see how, let's see based off of the based off this information and we learned through from the German science project paperclip or whatever, Pavlov, whatever, Pavlov conditioning, let's see how this works. Also, they had the remember when the whole propaganda about communism was going on, and this is at the time, I would say back in the 70s, back in y'all know back around the time 60s, 70s, the propaganda machine, when they were starting to strongly use media, television to influence the population and so forth, and usually that's done by giving mixed information. Some facts mixed in with a lot of lies, so forth and so on. Basically, this is when the people behind the scenes, really the controllers behind all of our government systems, this is them learning and getting their hands wet. And, basically, let's play this out. Let's see how this works. In all other words, through using media. So now we've already talked about cults. We talked about the media and propaganda. Then you have, again, like I stated before, the programs. They have the MK Ultra programs, which specifically focuses. And the younger that you can get a victim, you can break them down mentally and psychologically, which basically, like I said it before, if you don't do what I tell you to do, if you don't be this thing or that thing, or we're going to heap some more abuse onto you. And so that's essentially what that is. So these children, these people that have, gone through these particular programs, they cope basically by jumping full on into these certain personalities, whatever this role, whatever this character that their abuser wants them to play. They completely full on go all the way into it to avoid having to experience the trauma that was heaped upon them by their abusers. They fully go all the way into it. Whatever they are told to be or being coerced to be, they go and play these roles fully. This is why you have a lot of these people at the top, a lot of these celebrities, and this whole culture of sexualizing women, girls at a very young age, this over sexualization of our genders. This is what's going on. You have people that, these celebrities and people on the highest level are nothing but puppets. And I would really say high paid. I don't even say high paid, just slaves. A lot of them are slaves. And then the ones that, really that are extremely gifted and really fully, embody the program fully, they usually move up the echelons. They move up the ladder of, how do I say, they move up within these cults. So if you were initially the target and, and your influence is great, and really, to be honest, those who are targeted a great deal of the time, they really are the innocent, or they usually have a certain set of gifts. They are very influential, and potential can be seen in them from far and wide. And so what these particular perpetrators try to do is they try to do everything they can to learn about said target or victim, to basically know how to get close enough to them to hurt them, to subjugate them. And so in these cases, a lot of the ones that, if you have strong influence and persuasion upon, upon whatever community that you're in, then they'll look at you as a possible asset to their influence, the greater influence of whatever that cult is, or that, that control milieu or whatever. So, and eventually, and if you buy all the way into it, you go completely buy all the way into it, and then you have the opportunity to move from victim to handler. So now you get to become the perpetrator. And so you see this from the very lowest levels all the way up to the highest levels. So the spirit of narcissism is really a system. This is a system. Narcissism is basically a byproduct of all of this. It is just a microcosm. It's a reflection of the bigger issue behind this whole matrix of illusion. So let me go ahead and continue. Hopefully you're following me and you haven't gotten lost. But from there, when you go down to the so after you go through to the MK Ultra system, then basically that whole system definitely works inside. That is essentially what trafficking is, and this is what they do to those victims and people who are trafficked. Now, depending on your gifting and so forth, will depend on how much you are going to be used. Now, if you do not adhere to the program and you get, and you are a victim in these areas, you either submit on the extreme level or, get taken out. And I believe a lot of the ones that get taken out are not, they're not submitting. And the ones that, that do stick around, that do make it through, they eventually, in order to survive that, basically those are the survivors. They do whatever, they become any and everything that is needed to survive. It's really a survival game. Okay? And so you have these different things. So let me review. So at the top, again, you have where I see this beginning. You talk about the whole Nazi thing, Germany, Hitler. That was the blueprint. Then you go down to when this whole thing ended, and what did they do with the scientists? They say that they got rid of them and all of that, whatever, and they had the Nuremberg Code. They said that, but they didn't stop that. Yeah, Project Paperclip. And so what that is, basically, it's a social engineering program, which basically these scientists are looking to figure out how can we socially engineer, how can we psychologically manipulate the population to get them to do what we want them to do. That's essentially what that is about. Then you go down to, okay, they start to employ this whole thing, this social engineering experiment, due to let me back up. Social engineering and all of that. Again, let's include within that whole cocktail, the Pavlov conditioning. This is what when they talk about social engineering, Pavlov conditioning. Then you have the whole MK Ultra stuff, the sexual abuse. Then you have the whole thing where they experimented with psychedelic drugs. That's what the whole thing about this whole 1960s things was about. To how to induce the population, how to soften them, how to tamper with their intellect. Okay, then we have the rollouts when they start playing around with propaganda, a little bit of truth mixed in with a lot of lies, and spreading that on a mass level. And you move on to the whole cult thing that's started happening, and then they start this more so of interfacing with the population, at a closer level. And this all again involves the whole MK Ultra stuff, the sexual abuse. This really, when you think MK Ultra, just think sexual abuse and children and all of that. So this is that whole thing that was going on with this whole thing about y'all know the thing with children, adults, and normalizing adverse behavior, encouraging that. If you do that, then you can create a whole population of clones, people that you can control. Okay? So when you put that all into the whole thing of trafficking, then there you go. All of that in a nutshell. Now let's bring it a little closer. Then you have law, enforcement agencies, what in your local communities. And this plays out in the same way, where they are basically the handlers, and the community are the targets. So all of this brutality, okay, all of this that was going on, basically you're dealing with handlers and thugs, and they're really again operating on behalf of the government. Okay, they do the bidding of them. So don't really exactly think that they're going to act in your own interest, in your best interest. Just know that. And they're there to enforce this same system again, where again, like I stated before, there's a disproportionate amount of people that are, if you don't go along with the agenda, you end up in the system. Okay? And on the local community level, you would mostly, if you decide to get into these systems, but you can go either way. You get involved in these systems, you can go on the supposed legal route, or you can go the backdoor route, which would be essentially thugging, drugging, and all the myriad things that come with that lifestyle. TRAFFICKING, which still links up again to local law enforcement. Working together to achieve the same result. Goes right on up the chain. And here again, I'm describing the whole dichotomy of narcissism, the narcs. The whole point is to apply this whole system, top to bottom. Top to bottom. And to use these certain pillars in the communities as control centers. They are the control centers. And anybody that at any point comes up as a strong influence, you will either have to convert via these certain control centers within the community, or again, just like how they subjugate their victims, anybody that has been subjugated, and when they talk about, let's talk about this, when they talk about flying monkeys, these are usually people that have already joined the group, that have already been broken down, that have gone on ahead and, to survive it, they have decided to go ahead, put on the mask, put on these fake identities, to survive. They're nothing but puppets being moved by the handlers. They're extensions of the leader, the guru, the influence, the narcissist is at the top of it. And these are people on many levels, depending on where, your abuse may fall, psychological, mental, however they, and a lot of times these people that are predisposed to becoming part of these groups, these cults, these systems, usually it starts off, this is why when I talk about the generational curse breaker, if you come from a family or a background of really anybody that has trauma, any background in trauma, any background where, you have had, parents struggling in some way, form, or fashion, and it's a reflection of the entire system. A lot of times the suffering originates from, again, let's go back here and look at my notes here. Say, for instance, you come from a background of, family abuse, drug, alcohol, whatever, people who have been through traumatic, have had traumatic experiences or traumatic lives and so forth, and then they have families and so forth. And what happens is usually whatever was heralded onto them, whatever was thrown onto them, whatever was pressed onto them, coerced onto them, punched into them, knocked into them, abused into them, is what will come out of them. And so what you will produce is a microcosm of the macro level of what's going on. And the microcosm is that you'll have a dysfunctional family unit, which means you'll have somebody who is the most normal, usually the truth teller, the most sensitive, the one that does not adhere to the program, versus the one who's at the higher echelon in the family, which would be the golden child or whatever, the hero of the family. They're the ones that's able to embody all the identities that reflect the control leaders, whatever the that narcissist beliefs, what they attain to be, with how they want to be seen. That child or whatever will have to embody that personify that whole image, had to be that, and throw aside their identity to survive in that system. Which means you're going to have to whatever you were being herded to do, whatever, if you don't do this, I'm a da-da-da. whatever identity that they had given you, you better act the hell out of that. You better jump into character. In other words, and those are the ones that jump into character swiftly. And eventually, that they do it well enough, especially when you work at these jobs. You got this super slave. If you are able to become the greatest super slave that there is, then you have the opportunity that once that narc or whatever dies or whatever, now you have the mantle of carrying on the tradition. You must carry on the mantle of this system. And so then it escalates on up. Now the worst of the worst, now you can either goes one or two ways. Now, the worst of the worst could go into drug and trafficking. Okay, now the ones that are want to do a little bit of white collar work will go and slide over into law enforcement agencies, education systems, and so forth, and work their hand there. That's how that works. And then what that looks like in the education system, law enforcement would be policies that are placed that are basically created, new rules that are created to benefit the higher good of the controlling factor, the controlling the elite, or basically, in all the words, the government, the people that are at the top control center. It's going to benefit them, not you. So it plays out there into the school systems, your local community systems, hospitals. Again, the hospitals are just like when I talk about the psychedelics and all of that, how they use drugs and all of that, and to basically figure out how to either break you down so you're more controllable. It's all to do with how can we slow your vitality down. How can we use drugs? How can we use and in psychology, how can we use psychological drugs to dumbing you down? The education systems is all about making you a little bit dumber, so that way that you are a little bit more controllable. You're not smart enough to know what's going on, so they're gonna dumb you down, so you don't know nothing. They'll know just enough how to go to a job and do exactly those different tasks, those minute menial tasks that they give you, so that way you continue to basically shell out money that really does not go to you. It goes to, again, your handlers, which are your main control centers, i.e. the education systems, your law enforcement agencies, psychological health systems, all of that. Church systems as well. Okay, the church systems are basically there to keep people docile, to basically teach them not to empower themselves, and to also, especially in the Black communities, create division amongst one another, to create a he, they, she, he, they type thing, or she, they, them, a them type thing, and to create division as well, to divert you away from your own personal power to make decisions, and not having to wait on somebody else to save you, or waiting on the approval of, that system to give you the right of way to be able to do something. In all other words, then you have, and even with that, if outside of these systems, if you even want to go a little bit, expand a little bit further, you'll have certain influential people in the area that have been influenced by those certain, agencies, entities, or whatever, control centers, that will go out into the community to try to enforce social norms, would be social norms or whatever, and to basically weaponize the community, or said followers, people who have willingly given over their free will, flying monkeys. With narcs, in the narc world, they would call them flying monkeys. People who are innocently following blindly and not understanding what's going on. Then you have those who know what's going on, who are seeking to gain position within that system. You have those different types of things going on. Well, they'll do that as well, to influence and to target those who are not getting with the program, and to try to use any type of coercion, by means of trying to threaten them, scare them into trying to get with their program. Any form of harassment, they'll do that. They'll use people that, that again that may be close to you or know you or whatever. And if you come from any type of, say, a family or background of, anything related to how that same system, any type of traumatic background, any way in which you had a system where it was set up under a dysfunctional family system, and y'all could look that up as to what that is. Then you would be a prime candidate. They would basically, again, look for ways to look for your any type of vulnerabilities, and most times it's not that hard to kind of really find. They'll look at how can we trigger this person into submission, and that's what that is. And there's a whole nother thing that eventually, after a while, now as if you do your research long enough and you connect the dots, then you kind of about know the tactics. If you look at any narc videos when it comes to, analyzing the strategies and tactics of a narcissistic individual, that's really all that you need to know, because that is a microcosm of the macrocosm of the issue. And so it's there for a reason. It's not something that's going to go away. You would literally have to work on destroying the system, and it would really take, when I talk about chosen people, chosen ones, y'all would have to continue to expose the system. And know that when you expose the system, they're going to come for you. And I know that firsthand because I unknowingly did it. I exposed part of the system at what you call at the more basic level. When you go back to the family unit, and then you talk about the how the churches play into it, and then you look at your local community, and you begin to escalate and go up from there. Expound from all the way there. And I know this because look at it. I got a whole thing, a whole breadth of information. This ain't no overnight. I just don't go ahead and found, and just made up none of this. There's a whole breadth of research on all of this. And when you talk about the cults and all of that, this is really what it is. It's just simply programming. Anybody that, that basically comes to you and tries to throw you out of your own reality, it's an illusion. Anybody who is basically gaslighting you in any way, form, or fashion, trying to distort your reality, which you know is true, then they're a no-no. That's the first and foremost. Anytime that somebody comes to you with your own eyes, this is what you're seeing. You're seeing out of your own eyes. This is your own witness account as to what's going on. You're seeing this for your own eyes. That the sun is shining, or that it's storming or whatever, or whatever. Or basically somebody who is trying to create strong delusion for you will tell you that that it's raining when they're really pissing on you. And to basically get you to not trust your gut instinct and say, oh no, it's all in your mind. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. Or anybody's trying to implant things or basically state that, people who are making up their own version of reality versus what what really happened. You have those that will do that. Then you have those that will, as you begin to speak up and speak out about the reality of what's really going on, that will try to come with that same gaslighting and so forth, and try to accuse you of doing that. And when they're the ones that's doing it, and try to come with strong delusion, or try to, get you to doubt yourself, doubt what you see. And you can never trust anybody that's coming to you like that. Anybody that comes like that or whatever, and they're not seeing you as a person versus what they want you to do. If there's a strong coercion for you to act or behave in a certain manner, and that's consistent and regular all the way across the board. It's not within your nature. Let's just give an outrageous example about what I'm talking about. So say for instance, you're not, you're not a very overtly sexual person or nothing like that, but you have somebody that's trying to convince you to be sexual and be more promiscuous or whatever. So, they're going to try to attack. They're going to attack your virtue. They're going to attack that, and to try to come for you in different ways, by, whatever they think is a insecurity or vulnerability to play that up. Let's just give a simple example. Like you have a man that, that may try to nag you or whatever. If he wants to have access to your body, if he wants sexual, favors from you, then he'll try to engage in something such as nagging, which will be trying to find something to pick at you about, or as far as your appearance is concerned, try to make you feel insecure, so that way you'll look to him for, for cues as to, of acceptance, looking for validation from him and so forth, and to eventually get you to, okay, well, maybe he's right. Maybe I should go ahead and do this. I should just go ahead and, stuff like that. Things that basically are outside of your character to do. Just watch out for that. And I know I'm pretty much talking very broadly about that, but it's so much information, and y'all have to be patient with me because it's really hard to break down all of this information that I have. It's so much, and I'll do the best that I can. But in all other words, when I talk about this mass series, though, if you give into somebody else's version of reality, trying to tell you what's going on, what your reality is, then what you have is something called a pseudo personality, which means you have people walking around acting like chameleons, pretending to be something other than what they are, pretending and hiding their motives and so forth. And a lot of times people are, being controlled because they're fearful of the of what may happen to them if they don't go along and press these certain types of rules and whatever that's that they're basically being pushed out there to represent. So it's a combination of those different things that's going on. And on top of that, if you are somebody of value, if somebody that that most people can benefit from, as far as financially, emotionally, mentally, or whatever, you provide some type of service that is very, very much needed, then they're going to use you for all that you're worth, just like a narcissist would, for your resources, for whatever you have, for everything that you are. So, yeah, those are just the basics, though. That's why I press this whole thing about being authentic, being who you truly are. And if somebody got a problem with it, it's their problem. It ain't your problem. That means they need to do the work to know how they've been programmed and know how to shake the programming. And the only thing that you can do is continue to light up the trail, and leave the information there for people to be able to, when they're ready to go on that trail, with you or follow your trail, then they'll do that in their own timing. You don't stop being you. You be authentic, and all these whatever's expected of you to do, drop all of that. Just be who you are. And if somebody does not resonate with your energy and all of that, a decent person, a normal person would not have no problem with, with receiving the information. They're not going to have no problem with that. Narcissists will always, the minute you say no, you should expect a full launch of attack. So anytime you detect any of that behavior, they won't respect your boundary, then you know what you're dealing with. You made the right choice. Fall back and continue to do so. Stay in your energy and continue to produce. Work on yourself. Transmute your energy into your creativity and, using your voice. Okay? That's all, all that you can do. Just go ahead and continue to use your voice. Be you. Be happy. And to use your own intuition and your own gut feeling. Okay? And when you're tapped in, the different techniques that they use as well. This is why when I say the best way to combat, different things, like if you're triggered, or somebody triggers you, is to transmute that energy into doing something creative, to doing something, to also help if, somebody else struggling or, in that area, do something to help them in whatever area that you have gained wisdom in to heal. Okay? Transmute that and resist the urge. Resist the urge to fall all the way into the trigger. Change the scene. Change the scene or talk it out with somebody that you can trust. Okay? But realize you need to recognize in the first and foremost that that's a trigger and where it came from. Because it's going to stay in your body for a little minute. It's going to take a little while for your body to acclimate. It's going to take a little minute for your body response to calm down. But you continue to do that and roll on with that. Just continue with your intuition, your own inner knowing about what's going on, and roll with it. You keep going. And every time it comes up, this ain't come from me. This came from this came from what this person wanted me to do. They wanted me to be X, Y, and Z, and that's not who I am. Okay? Yeah, but that's all. I think that's all. And wait a minute. Also, another way to when you coming out of this, when you're coming out of a narcissistic relationship, whether it be family, work, romantic relationship, whatever the relationship is, recognize your triggers. Number one, where it came from versus who it belongs to. Number two, do things like I said, transmute that. When you are experiencing that intensity, you need to get that out your system. Go ahead and you gotta dance it out, do whatever it is to express it out. Get it on paper, journal, do it. So you can begin to leave a paper trail of your mind, your blueprint, your mindset, with your programming, and you'll come back to it later and recognize what's going on. Also, you could do things like music, and just the same way that they use subliminals and whatever to program you, to get you to comply, to coerce you, and so forth. You do the same thing. Okay, so if you I don't promote this though, but if you do any type of whatever, psychedelics or whatever, and when your mind is in that state of mind, you feed your mind with all, everything that encourages you, with all things that encourage you to build yourself up. If you're going to put yourself in this very suggestive mind state, you use information that builds you up, builds your mind. You do activities that build your mind. Okay? You receive only information that builds your mind. You listen to only music that builds your mind. You go into a meditative state. Listen to only things that build you. Food for your mind. Food for your soul. And nothing less, nothing else. Because what you put into your mind is a reflection of what's going to come out of it. You have to be guardian of your mind, of your perception, of your peripherals, because how you see things, your sight, is going to determine the reality that you create. You can either create heaven or you can create hell on earth by what you receive into your mind. And if that means you having to clear out the deck, and it means on every level, clear out with anything that's a negative influence or force on your life, like again, that goes back to recognizing how you are programmed, who put what in you, what's yours, what's not yours. You throw out what's not yours. And then you recognize anybody coming with same agendas, recognize that it ain't yours. And what the intention is behind that. I'm not, your mindset, hold up, this is not my identity, that's your identity. I'm not a clone, I'm me. And it's simple as that. Anybody, you'll start clearing out relationships, romantic work, whatever, familial, all of that. You start clearing that all out. Same with information. This ain't mine. I don't believe that. I don't agree with that. Throw it out if it ain't yours. Okay? And when I talk about feed your mind, also sit by yourself. Reflect. Meditate. You got to take you a nice little shower and get your mindset cleared out. If you got to do a walking meditation, where you walk and reflect. If your means of meditation is cleaning, something that's somewhat active and allows you to by all means do that. You need to self-reflect. And when you self-reflect, you'll hear what they've called the voice of God. Your inner voice. You are God. You're an aspect of God placed in you. You're an aspect of God. You're basically a different, how a diamond reflects. You're a spectral of light. You're in a different expression of them. And its DNA is already in you. It's already encoded in your DNA, honey. All you got to do is tune in. And everything you need to know, it's already in you. It's already in you. And that's all you need to know. Okay? And when you do that, then the world opens up to you. The world becomes your oyster because now you have clear sight. You have clear sight. And you can create the world that you want, the experiences that you want. And you will not allow somebody else to design their hell or their world on you. Like, hold up, wait a minute, partner. Boom. Over there. This is, my world is set up like this. You take a seat on your throne. Put on your crown. When they talk about souls, think about it. Souls represents salt. It represents thought, perception, knowledge, wisdom. Salt is your brain. And it's encoded in your DNA, everything you need to know. When they talk about the Akashic records, that's basically your inner knowing. Just like in Avatar, when they all connected their hair to the trees and the environment around you, all the wisdom that's already there, your DNA, your ancestors, your family history, y'all's DNA, what y'all are known for, was in you. It's already there. Honey, they living through you. They in your veins. It's a part of who you is. And when you trust, and when they say, I guess let me say it, when you trust God, the God that's in you, that DNA, you can never be full. You will always be free as long as you know what's going on. This system has control because you have forgotten who you are. All this ancient mysticism and all this, we're going to Candy Mountain. We're going to Candy Mountain. That's all BS. It's already in you. It's very simple. But that's all I got. Y'all are very smart. Y'all go ahead. Y'all look it up. And y'all come back to me and y'all tell me some things too. All right, y'all. Bye. Y'all have a wonderful day.